Welcome to Fearless with Jason Whitlock. I am Jason Whitlock, your host. Happy Friday to you and yours. We made it through another week. The weekend is here. I'm looking forward to it. Got a friend coming into town. I'll probably go out to eat, watch a little football, bet some games. I'm excited about the weekend, but I'm really excited about today's show. It's going to be awesome. Bryson Gray, back in studio with me. Round of applause for Bryson Gray, everybody. Hey.
Thank you.
Bryson Gray, back in studio with me for the show. So I got some company here in studio. Stay tuned. Bryson dropped a song last week, 6-7 days ago, Shut Up and Dribble. It's a diss track of LeBron James. And we're going to play that in its entirety at some point today, and I'll talk to Bryson about it. And I'm going to ask Steve Kim. You know, the Korean Cosell is a pop culture expert, knows everything about rap music. We'll get the Korean Cosell's take on Bryson's new song, Shut Up and Dribble. We'll talk a little LeBron James and all that. Royce White is going to be here very shortly. We're going to talk about, do we start need to wearing Make America MAGA again hats, shirts, because the MAGA movement seems to be in a bit of trouble, and I want to ask Royce what's next. I want to ask Bryson too, because I know Bryson's passionate about this. I follow his social media. Bryson wears MAGA stuff everywhere and provokes people, triggers people. But what's next for the MAGA movement? We'll talk about that with Royce. We'll also talk about this FTX crypto controversy and the collapse of FTX and what we should make of it. Royce will provide us some insight there. Tucker Carlson last night did a very interesting monologue on the topic. We'll play a bit of that, get Royce's take. And then we'll bring in Steve Kim. We'll talk about last night's Titans game. Want to talk about that with him, and there's this backlash to Jeff Saturday, people rooting against him. And then we're going to end the week in today's show talking to a former NFL star, running back Larry Johnson, big star with the Kansas City Chiefs. When I was there and covered Larry's probably been out of the NFL maybe close to 10 years now. Larry's a very interesting, thoughtful, deep. He reminds me a little bit of Royce, thoughtful guy. And so I want to talk with Larry. I follow his Instagram. He's had some interesting comments about Kyrie and Kanye. He's got some insight into the Hebrew Israelite movement. And so we'll end the show talking to Larry Johnson about those issues. And Bryson's got thoughts on the Hebrew Israelites thing as well. So that's our show for today. Buckle up, stay tuned. It's going to be a marvelous show. It's going to be it will be as good. We're both excellent. It's going to be as good as Good Ranchers. You know what would be a great gift this year? To take away inflation for someone? While you can't control the gas prices or home prices, you can't stop meat inflation for yourself or someone you know and love. How? A subscription to Good Ranchers during their Black Friday special. Beef prices are expected to go up another 15% in 23, but Good Ranchers customers who use my code FEARLESS will experience 0% inflation all year long. That's because every subscriber locks in their price for the life of their subscription. If that's not enough to get you to subscribe, you also can get their Black Friday offer right now. That's 2 free 12-ounce Black Angus New York strip steaks and 2 free pasture-raised chicken breasts with any order that uses my code FEARLESS. Head on over to GoodRanchers.com to find the perfect box for you in their curated selection of America's best meat and seafood. Give the gift of zero inflation and America's best meat to yourself or someone else this season. Good Ranchers' award-winning service and quality are why they have more than 7,000 five-star reviews. Remember to visit GoodRanchers.com and subscribe with my code FEARLESS at checkout to grab the Black Friday special, their best offer of the year. 2 free Black Angus steaks, 2 free pasture-raised chicken breasts. zero inflation, all with Good Ranchers, American meat delivered. All right, you guys know, soldiers, it's the holiday season, Thanksgiving, you're gonna be eating a lot. Do it with Good Ranchers. Support a company that supports you, me, and what we believe. All right, let's swing out to Minneapolis and bring in our main man, Royce White. Let's get a little deep here. And this question that I want to address first with Royce certainly applies to Bryson as well. Bryson wrote and performed the Let's Go Brandon song. Bryson, everywhere I see him over social media, he's got his Make America Great Again gear on. I'm starting to wonder, though, Royce, what is the future of the MAGA movement? Do we need to start wearing Make America MAGA Again shirts? Because it feels like to me, everybody's jumping ship on Donald Trump. I'm not that comfortable with everybody jumping ship on him.
I'm never comfortable with cowardice. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a run towards the center, and it has to do with the outcome of these midterm elections that you could say Donald Trump was over leveraged in as a political figure and as a political star, and I don't see the outcome of these elections as a referendum on Donald Trump, although I know many people at home would like to think of it as such. It's not, because the people at home don't have the proper information. And I think one of Donald Trump's most profound contributions to the modern political discourse was to say that the American media, or the mainstream media all around the world, has become the biggest enemy of the free people. And the narrative that I hear, even on a daily basis, from people within my immediate life about who they think Donald Trump is and what issues he ran on, is completely off base from what the reality is. So, yeah, all of the coward. I mean, this is the uniparty. The people that you see right now running back for the center and calling to govern from the center are the uniparty. They always have been the uniparty, and this is why the conservative movement has, in large part, performed as a controlled opposition to the downslide or the avalanche towards a liberal mainstream political landscape. So no, we shouldn't. We should be doubling down on what Donald Trump started, while also acknowledging his flaws with honesty and objectivity, and calling him to the fire to be a better leader. That's what good followers should do. We should want our leaders to strive to be better, even in their leadership. But to run for the hills for a centrist governance is completely corrupt, and it's cowardly.
Bryson, where are you at on Trump and the MAGA movement?
Yeah, I don't see a lot of people jumping ship on Trump. I think people are interpreting, criticizing Trump as jumping ship on Trump. And I think that is sort of like cultish, right? I like what Royce just said. If I criticize Trump on his comments on the vaccines, or if I criticize Trump on something he said, I also support the things he said that's good. You have to criticize your leaders, or else they won't get better. If you're in the echo chamber and everybody is scared to criticize somebody, that's not being a good follower. That's not being somebody that's holding people accountable. So, and the people that, some people are never Trumpers. So you have some people at the Daily Wire, I'm not gonna say their names, but you have a few that have always disliked Trump. You know what I'm saying? So those people are going to continue doing what they're doing. But I saw my name on the list, people that turned on Trump. I saw Candace Owens. I saw Brandon Tatum. And the sole reason is because we criticized them. So and by the way, when he said the MAGA movement is going centrist, it's actually just going straight up liberal. I don't want to say centrist. That wouldn't even be true. We're starting to adopt the LGBT ideology. You start to see a lot of talking heads saying we need to tone down our messaging on same-sex marriage, tone down our messaging on abortion, because that's why there wasn't a red wave. Statistically, it's inaccurate. If you look at the exit polls from 2022 to 2018, we've gained in every single category except for two, which is unmarried women and homosexuals. We didn't gain in those two categories, but in every other category, we've actually made progress in, including the 18 to 29 voter group.
Royce, I think he makes some good points that maybe had confused me because I'm very capable of being confused. That's why I like this show and like the people that come on the show, help me think through things and see through things. I did hear the criticism, and then combined with the way the media was trying to spin the midterm elections, I melded those two things together and said, oh, the criticism and the media saying that Trump cost the red wave and blah, blah. And I kind of melded those two things together, and I shouldn't, because I think the people in the MAGA movement, particularly you guys that are day ones or whatever, you have every right to criticize Trump over the vaccine issue. I would love for people to push Trump over the vaccine issue and question him strongly. If I ever interview him again, I'm going to ask him those questions, because that I think is a very legitimate criticism of Donald Trump. He mishandled COVID.
Absolutely. And I'm not a day one Trump or MAGA mover myself. I was brought into the movement in 2020 after the George Floyd incidents, and me and Steve Bannon, formed a relationship, and we have a great relationship. Nobody should be just inherently against criticizing their leaders. And Donald Trump isn't beyond reproach by any means, but I think what you're seeing is that the mainstream media has seen a crack in the levee, a crack in the wall that is the MAGA movement, which is the only genuine political movement that has any legs in this country currently. And they want to try and drive a narrative home that says, hey, you guys got to jump ship because Donald Trump is the reason why a movement that was growing is now suffering. It's kind of a story that they want people to believe at home. But we're stronger than ever. I'm here, and I'm a person who was not in on day one, and I was brought in, and I was, you could say converted to, and I feel stronger than ever about the principles and the foundation of the movement and what it stands for. Now, I came on this show and openly criticized Donald Trump for bringing Woody Johnson onto the stage and singing his praises. Because I think companies like Johnson & Johnson, and even more importantly, nonprofit organizations like the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation have huge hands in the political corruption that exists and the corporatocracy that presides over us. And Donald Trump as an individual has to navigate those waters so best as he sees fit for his individual journey and his role to be a person that could potentially become this nation's president. So I don't expect him to say everything that I would say on a given issue, especially at his age, where he comes from, the industry he was built in. All of these things have implications to what a person says in the public square. What I will say is that the younger MAGA movement that is on the rise, me, Bryson, and countless others around the country, we do have that sort of instinct towards the truth. And you could say we're the vanguards, the newly appointed vanguards of all the things that Trump may not be able to say. And that's okay. That's also okay. We don't have to be held to the fire for everything one man says or doesn't say to have our allegiance aligned along the belief in faith in God, family, country. Right. And Donald Trump has flaws. And if you believe in God, you know that. I have flaws. But we are unified against a movement and an inertia from an establishment that means to rewrite our society the way they see fit and doesn't allow us to worship God in the way that we would like to.
Let me ask both of you, and I'll start with you, Bryson. Where you at on Ron DeSantis? And because I can't figure out where I'm at. Obviously, I like what he's done. He seems classy and professional, but also vicious and relentless. I like that. But I've made some analogies here, and y'all probably too young, but there was a movie called Blood In, Blood Out. I kind of have that mentality. It's like, no, Trump's in the game. DeSantis hasn't been jumped in, so I'm uncomfortable. I like what I see, but he's not really in with me, and so I'm not completely comfortable with Ron DeSantis. Where are you at on him?
So what's funny is I've actually got attacked by MAGA for criticizing Ron DeSantis like 6 months ago before everybody thought it was cool to criticize him. And the same criticisms I have of him is the same ones I've had pretty much with Donald Trump. They both supported red flag laws. Ron DeSantis supported red flag laws in the past. He switched up his tune, but he did support that. He also supported lockdowns in the beginning. He also pushed the vaccine in the beginning. And Ron DeSantis also passed that anti-Semitic law with a situation with Ben and Jerry's. Trump passed anti-Semitic laws too. So it's the same criticisms, but I also recognize the good. DeSantis fixed the elections in Florida. Everybody can say what they want about DeSantis. He fixed elections in Florida. He limited the mail-in ballot situation. He did things that was good. So, as far as like speeches, I would much rather watch a Trump speech, minus that last one. But I would much rather watch a Trump speech.
You didn't like Trump's speech?
Oh, I almost fell asleep. I've been watching Trump for a very long time, and I know people that was there that are like only Trumpers. And they even said it was pretty boring. I mean, what he said, do I like it? Yes. But it had like zero energy. Like if I would have rated it on the app, it'd be like, content good, everything else.
I thought he was striking a new tone. Royce, where are you at on DeSantis? And then I'm going to throw in now, what did you think of Trump's speech as well?
Ron DeSantis has shown that he's a courageous leader in some sense and on some issues. And I respect that. I admire that. It takes a brave man to stand up and do the things that he's done in the circumstance he's done them. What we have to ask ourselves is who the establishment is. Who are the world powers? Who are the gatekeepers? Who are the gatekeepers most afraid of, and why? Why is it that Donald Trump irritates the establishment the way he does? Is it because he's this profound evil character? Well, we all know that that's not true fundamentally, that anything you could criticize Donald Trump of, you could throw at the feet of his accusers as well. So, I look at who is the establishment getting behind? And all throughout the political community, I hear a call for Ron DeSantis on the Republican side. And I'm not just talking about at the grassroots level on the everyday people. I'm talking about the institutions. I'm talking about the big donor class, the banks, the individual nation of shopkeepers, that are being brought into the banks and being courted for other candidates such as Nikki Haley or Mike Pompeo. And Ron DeSantis fits right in. Look at who's backing him. Let's just follow the money. Look at who's backing him. And it brings a reasonable question in to see who's backing Donald Trump as well. All I know is that there is a reason why the media has spent so much time and energy to convince us that Ron DeSantis would be better for America. And it's largely predicated on the fact that he could get more die-hard Democrat voters to flip out of their hatred for Donald Trump and having a more moderate position on some of the key wedge issues such as abortion and same-sex marriage, although he's been strong on the LGBTQ in Florida. As a presidential candidate, we'd see where that fell. But my number one question, and something that I have not heard Ron DeSantis speak too firmly about, is the military. The military-industrial complex and where he is on foreign policy. He's been able to keep the conversation in local governance for the most part, and that's a much different deal than being the commander-in-chief of a country and overseeing the entire federal government.
What did you think of Trump's speech?
I didn't watch it. Because I know what he's going to say. He hasn't switched. I mean, he hasn't changed his position on these things, right? I mean, for as unpredictable and unstable as they try and make Donald Trump seem, he's still running on the same policy points that he was in 2016. I mean, I didn't need to watch. There was nothing that I believed he was going to say that I wouldn't already expect. And I was busy doing other things. I was busy figuring out how we can split the Democrat vote in the inner cities and the Democrat strongholds for Donald Trump in 2024. That's what I was actually doing in real time when the speech was going on.
Bryson, let me ask you this before. Do we know where Ron DeSantis is on abortion? Because when I think of where I give Trump the most credit was he put 3 Supreme Court justices on that overturned Roe v. Wade. And that takes a pair, that's real change. Does DeSantis, do we know, I mean, again, maybe it doesn't matter when you're just running a Florida state, but do we know where he is on abortion?
Well, it does matter because in Texas and Tennessee, a couple of other places, they had trigger laws in. So when Roe v. Wade got overturned, 30 days later, abortion would be illegal in those states. And this is another criticism I have of Ron DeSantis. I think Florida, as far as laws, is overrated. They don't have constitutional carry. and abortion is not illegal there. So, of course, Ron DeSantis is pro-life himself, but the laws don't suggest that. But one more thing about DeSantis, I'm not a DeSantis fan, I've never been, but I am an objective person. And yes, it does seem like a few rhinos are backing Ron DeSantis, but them same people, let's use Kevin McCarthy for an example. Trump just endorsed Kevin McCarthy last week. You know what I'm saying? Or we talk about rhinos. What do we call Dr. Oz? If anybody's a rhino, Kevin McCarthy, I'll pick him over Dr. Oz every day. Do people know what Dr. Oz believes? So, my thing is, it's like, I don't like Ron DeSantis for multiple reasons. I've been saying this for months. But at the same time, a lot of the things we criticize DeSantis for, you can also apply to Trump. But if you do apply to Trump, you get called somebody that turned on Trump, even though people like me been risking a lot just to support him.
So, Royce, you're the perfect person for me to ask this question. And you can throw in your comment, but as it relates to Trump, how long can you survive as a rebel and a threat to the establishment? Has maybe it's run its course? Have they worn Trump out to the point? Again, much of his family now is saying, hey, I'm backing away from, I'm not going to be involved. I think Ivanka has said she's not going to be involved, and which is probably a good thing. But I'm just wondering, how long can you be a rebel before you eventually, you just get tired of dealing with all the backlash you get, and maybe they've worn Trump out some, and that's why his speech was low energy? How long can you be a rebel?
I mean, let's be real about this. Donald Trump has stood in the breach and taken a lot of personal criticism that could be laid before many of us, because a lot of us have many things that, if put under a big enough microscope, wouldn't look too good. I know I certainly do myself. So he stood in the breach. The man is in his late 70s. Okay, his energy is winding down because he's in his late 70s, and he has fought against an establishment with an infinite amount of resources and energy to cast against him. And I think it's only a matter of individual will how long you can withstand that onslaught. I think he's done a great job given all of the forces aligned against him, not only in our country but all around the world. And to go back to Bryson's point, it was very clear to me, as somebody who is loyal to the ideas that undergird the MAGA movement, not the movement. I'm loyal to the ideas. I'm loyal to God, family, and country. And whatever party would stand up and affirm those ideas and stand on them, I would be open to casting a vote for and being politically involved with. It just so happens that the other two, be it the conservative-controlled opposition and the Democrats, are completely opposed to God, family, and country fundamentally in every way. But it was very clear to me still that Donald Trump's endorsement process was an ego-driven one meant to play a game of wins and losses. And I think it's in that game of wins and losses where he looked at the board strategically and said, who are the people that are going to be most likely to win? And then the win will be a sign of my leadership or my competence or my overall political power. And he was right to a sense, because as soon as the candidates that he endorsed didn't have these landslide victories, that's what they're using to claim that he's lost his juice. Right. So it works both ways. And I think the political is one of the most three-dimensional aspects of our society. And in that place, Donald Trump erred. He made a grave error, because if it was me and if I was the one who was around him, I would have said that you go morals first and you go wins and losses second. And that's my message to the entire conservative movement. It's no good. It's not a sign of good health to be well adjusted to a sick society. And it's also not a good sign of your leadership to have won when you really lose. We can't win by becoming Democrats. So when you talk about Oz or McCarthy, that was clearly an example where he looked at the board and said, these guys have the best chance of winning, and by them winning is going to reflect better on me and put me in a better position for the entire MAGA movement. Reasonable analysis. We're just in a dire time where those types of measurements are going to fall short quick. And McCarthy's a great example. I mean, if you want to look at a uniparty or where we are, Jason, no better example than the McCarthy vote. right? We got 31 America Firsters in that House, in a Republican House, and 188 finger to the wind, tide measurers, right? Where the wind's blowing, and every single constituent. I don't care if the Marjorie Taylor Greene too. Let's throw her on the griddle. Oh, well, if we didn't vote McCarthy back in, then Pelosi would have been the speaker again. Now you hear Pelosi's resigning, so she wouldn't have been the speaker again. But regardless, so what? If we lost some rhinos, but I'm different. I'm like a frontline, war horse. If we lose some rhinos in the process for standing on these beliefs, let those people go. There are people out there waiting to come into the movement that we block from coming into the movement because we want to toe the line and play this game of winning in the short term. We got to think long term, and that's something only younger people, I think, have the courage and the unique position because of our age to do, in a sense.
You just led me to another question I have for both of you as it relates to Trump. You've painted a picture, Royce, of Trump doesn't recognize the time that we're in, that this is a battle of good versus evil. It's no longer a political deal. This is a time to stand on truth and morals and screw the outcome. Is Trump there? Because that is where I'm at, and that's where I think the country's at. And so that's why, Dr. Oz or whatever, I'm friends with Kathy Barnett, who should have been the Republican nominee, should have gotten the support. If you're really just like, nah, I'm pushing all the chips into the table and I'm standing on principle, get somebody that was at January 6th rather than somebody that was on Oprah's TV show and is friends with Sean Hannity. But do we think Trump is aware of the time that we're in and knows how to operate in this spiritual battle that's going on?
Well,
I think we'll have to see.
Go ahead, Bryson.
Yeah, I think we'll have to see. I don't know about that aspect of it. I think his energy will come back. I think that speech, which is literally that speech, I think his next rally speech is going to be lit. I'm pretty sure it was, because a few of his rally speeches before this, weeks ago, was lit. Now, as far as he's ready for a spiritual battle, it's how spiritual do you think he is? Donald Trump brought back the right to pray to school. He did a lot of good things for Christians, for people of faith. But is he himself close enough to God to where he has on the armor of God and prepared for that battle? That's a different battle right there. Political battle is one thing. That good versus evil battle, like you said, if you was ready to pit morals first, Kathy Barnett would have been the only option, because she blew up because of what she called out the WEF. She called out Dr. Oz in the debate, which is why she got popular in the first place. And the GOP threw her under the bus. And I don't know if you remember this, but people like Richard Grenell attacked her because of her faith. People got to remember this. The GOP puppets attacked her because of her faith, because it wasn't pro-LGBT. So is Trump ready for the spiritual battle? I think only time will tell, but I hope he is, because that is the most important battle we have.
Go ahead, Royce.
Yeah, I mean, I think Donald Trump is somebody who is in a position where he sees much more of the political chessboard than many of us are privy to. I mean, it just for example, when I come on the show and I say that 85% of the money from the Republican, donor base went into the pockets of third-party, grifters or middlemen, people are like, what? People that donated, that watched this show and actually donated. They don't even know that. So there are people in our society that are privy to different information than the everyday person, and they have to navigate the position they're in with that information. And I think Donald Trump is somebody who certainly has to do that. It's just that I would say, as a Christian, that the spiritual pride that occurs when you think that your plans or your strategy is going to overcome the metaphysical supreme intelligence of Satan will fall short, and you'll have to fall on your own sword and get a swift kick in the butt from reality when you don't acknowledge that.
All right, I want to switch up to FTX. I want to talk about this controversy. I saw something interesting on Tucker Carlson, but before I do that, I want to talk about my good friends at Preborn and the work that we're doing with Preborn. You guys know, you hear me talk about it virtually every day on this show. Preborn and The Blaze and this show have partnered to save 50,000 babies' lives in 23. We got about 2 weeks left in November. We got the whole month of December. We can meet these goals if we all man up and do what's our responsibility, and that's protect children in the womb. Preborn has been doing this for nearly 2 decades. They've counseled nearly 500,000 women. They've saved nearly 200,000 babies' lives. They do it by showing women and providing women an ultrasound. Show the baby in the womb. The woman gets to hear the heartbeat. She then chooses life. Expectant mothers that are considering abortion, when they hear their baby's heartbeat, when they see that baby in the womb, they change their mind. Preborn then comes in, introduces them to God, ministers, disciples them, and then provides the support that they need, the diapers, the baby clothes, the cribs, whatever a baby needs and a mother needs to get through the pregnancy and to get that child's life started properly. Preborn then provides free of charge. They do it free of charge because we, men, fearless men, step up and donate to Preborn. It's completely tax deductible. We've had Dan Steiner, the founder of Preborn, on this show. He explained to you, your money doesn't go to a bunch of mid-level executives. It goes to pay for ultrasounds. $28 will buy you an ultrasound. $140 will buy you 5 ultrasounds. You can save babies' lives. All you got to do, visit preborn.com/Jason or pound 250, say the keyword baby. That's how you can donate to Preborn. My favorite way, of course, is preborn.com/Jason. I want the credit for it. I'm sorry. I'm that kind of selfish. I want this show. I want us in the Fearless Army to get the credit for saving babies' lives. There's a little slot when you go to preborn.com/Jason where you get to say, hey, here's where I heard of Preborn. Make sure you check the Fearless Army box. Guys, we got to give. We have to back up what we believe by what we do. Preborn.com is a great way to show your support for our way of life, for our views, to express your biblical worldview, and that you respect the sanctity of life. Preborn.com/Jason, pound 250, say the keyword baby. Be a good fearless soldier. All right, Royce, welcome back. I want to play you a clip last night from Tucker Carlson that it was part of his monologue last night, which was really good because I've been trying to wrap my brain around this FTX crypto controversy and how it relates to corruption within the Democratic Party. They're sending money to Ukraine and Ukraine's funneling the money back. And this guy, I think SBF, Sam Bankman-Fried or whatever, second biggest Democrat donor in America. Second only to George Soros. This is a 30-year-old kid. And so Tucker breaks all this down. And then at the end, he makes a fascinating point at the end. I was like, whoa. And I actually rewound and watched the whole thing over again so I could try to catch the whole entirety of what he's talking about. But that's why we got Royce on. Royce is deeper than I am, and he can help me unpack these ideas. Let's play the clip from I think it's about the last 2 minutes of Tucker Carlson's monologue, and then we'll get Royce's reaction.
So this thing swells to unsustainable size and inevitably implodes. It collapses, and that collapse is used for a pretext to do what they've been planning to do all along. So it probably shouldn't shock you that right after FTX's collapse, every major bank in this country announced a new partnership with the New York Fed to establish a new digital currency. Oh, digital currency, the one they can regulate and control. Citigroup, Wells Fargo, MasterCard, HSBC, all working on a 12-week digital dollar pilot. The Fed describes this project as a regulated liability network. So what does this mean long term? Well, if they have control of your money because it's digital, you can't stash it under your bed. If they don't like what you say, they can turn it off and you're impoverished. In other words, this whole thing is a bigger scam even than it seems, and it was made possible by political sloganeering. And Sam Bankman-Fried, if nothing else, is not stupid, and he knows that well. As he put it in a message to a reporter the other day from his hideout in the Bahamas, the woke posturing is the most effective possible business ploy. And we're quoting, "I feel bad for those who get effed by it," he wrote, "by this dumb game we woke Westerners play where we all say the right shibboleths and everyone likes us." In other words, if you suspected all of this was a scam, all the moral posturing, all the lectures you get about how they're great and you're bad, this was all a way to blind you to the fact that there was a massive ripoff going on, you might be on the right track.
Royce, what should we make of this FTX corruption and collapse?
Well, the first thing to make is that our elections are not secure. Our elections are compromised, and they're compromised first and foremost by dark money. And there's no greater example of dark money than this FTX scandal. When you talk about him being the second largest donor to the Democrat Party behind George Soros, let's go back and ask why George Soros should be able to impact our elections the way he does, or any other number of super donors. The entire election finance process is the way by which our elections are not secure and lack integrity. And people who don't acknowledge that first and get caught up solely in the outcome of the elections on voting day miss a huge component here. And that's what Tucker's saying. I would ask Tucker why a person like myself, who came on his show and talked about the Federal Reserve in a little 3-minute stint, hasn't been allowed back on. But my burst onto the scene politically was having 12,000 people outside of the Federal Reserve for this very reason, that the Federal Reserve is your enemy. The central banking cartel is your enemy. And people don't understand that. They don't want to accept that because their vested interest is in the sort of radical material security industrialization that has become normal for us and that we love and that we're addicted to. But when you really peel it back, what you have is a security state operation. And I believe that in my heart. That is my take on the FTX situation, that this guy is a spook. He was always a spook. And that this entire either very early on or somewhere along the way, when this crypto platform started to take off and gain a bunch of money, a very intelligible secret security state, secret agency came to him, put a handler on him, allowed him to raise the money, made him, or encouraged him to funnel money to the Ukraine or to the Democrats. And they knew that it was a twofer. Not only do we get the immediate short-term liquid that we need, we also get a safeguard or a backup plan of when it actually falls through. This guy's the cutout. He's the patsy. He's the Oswald. And then we get to bring in the cryptocurrency. I mean, it's a win-win-win for the establishment. And what we have to look at here that's most important, and I think this guy is a patsy for this reason, because what he did is not what any bank isn't already doing. Let's be clear about the morality around this actual FTX scandal. What he did, so what happened was Binance was going to buy FTX, or there was going to be a substantial transaction. Binance went to go look at the books after the books were conveniently leaked very close to election time. And then when they saw that the books didn't look right, they pulled out. And when they put the explanation out as to why they pulled out of the deal, then you had what you call a bank run, right? Where a bunch of people who have investments come and they try and pull it out all at once. Every bank in the world runs on fractional reserve banking. They all do that. If we all went to go call in our cash and try to liquidate the money that we have at the banks, they would all go bankrupt. Why? Because we have $2.4 quadrillion in World Bank debt, which stems from usury, from an industrialization that could be, said is the start of this entire downward slide of our society. So this young man didn't do anything that the other big finance and banking cartel people didn't do. What is significant is that a big portion of the money that didn't look right on the books was strategically funneled to Democrat campaigns and elections, and some of it went to the Ukraine as well. So, that is the significant part. But the crime itself is something that banks are doing every day.
Bryson, you got anything? Are you following this story? Do you got any?
A little bit. I just wasn't surprised about a scam funding Democrats in Ukraine, but I'm not suicidal. and I think we should end the Federal Reserve.
Well, now you just hit Royce's topic. Royce just smiled. I'm sure his heart just probably fluttered and wants to fall out. I mean, Royce, go ahead and go off on. How does this connect to the Federal Reserve?
Well, I mean, look, the Fed, I don't think it's a coincidence that the George Floyd thing happened. And I led these huge counter protests about the corporatocracy to the front door of the Fed. And then the Bloomberg did a very small story on my marches to the Fed. And about a year later, PBS does this huge documentary called The Power of the Fed. Right. And I encourage all of us to go watch the PBS Frontline documentary, The Power of the Fed. And in there, they very clearly explain how the housing crisis and the financial collapse of the housing market in 2009 led to quantitative easing, 1, and then quantitative easing 2, led by Ben Bernanke and Raskin and then Janet Yellen and all of these prominent finance figures and from this central banking organization. They lay out how Wall Street basically co-opted the social consensus to turn on a tap of printing fake money in order to bring jobs, in order to increase wages. And what Wall Street did was they bought back the stock. It was a scam. It was a stock buyback scam. And then the Fed was at the mercy of Wall Street, and Wall Street led them exactly where the corporatocracy is going to lead them. Now, the question is, were the leaders or the chairs of the Fed ignorant to it, or were they in on it? In my opinion, people who are world-class geniuses when it comes to economics were not dumb to what Wall Street had done and what they would continue to do. And now today we have a Federal Reserve that is completely defanged. They have no power, so they say, and Wall Street's running the Fed. And that's what I said on Tucker when I went on. You can go back and pull up the clip. I said the Congress is supposed to regulate the Fed, and the Fed is supposed to regulate the currency, but instead we got Wall Street running the Fed and the Congress sitting on the sidelines. Why? Because they're probably taking payoffs too. So we have a huge compromised financial system. And the Federal Reserve is right at the heart of it with how they manage inflation and set the currency policies.
This story to me, just from an outsider who's playing catch up and doesn't fully understand it, but a 30-year-old is the number 2 donator to the Democratic Party. A 30-year-old. How does that happen? How just, and it seems to me like, and again, maybe I don't understand the story. It seems like he kind of like appeared out of nowhere. It's not like, he started a lemonade stand when he was 14, and then when he turned 17, he did this, and then he graduated from Stanford at 19 and started this tech company and became a millionaire here. And to me, it's just like, whoa, this dude just appears and he's a billionaire and he's 30 years old and he's the number 2 donator to the Democratic Party. And then the other thing that just like, this has to be a movie because, and this is how someone at my level interprets things. And I'm apologize for it. But again, I went to Ball State. You guys know I didn't go to no Ivy League school. I'm working class mentality. I look at this man's girlfriend and say, no way he's a billionaire legitimately. What billionaire? Have y'all seen the girlfriend?
I haven't seen it.
Carolyn, whatever. Justin, if we have time, please hunt up the picture of the girlfriend, please. And we will take a moment here because I got to show you the picture of the girlfriend. I think his name's Caroline, whatever. And I'm like, this is a billionaire's girlfriend? I mean, of all the red flags that I saw, it was the girlfriend that's the real red flag. I'm going to have to, is it Caroline Ellison maybe? I'm trying to, let me help Justin out here. Oh, he found her, hopefully. Yeah, Caroline Ellison, I think is her name, yeah. Yes, Caroline Ellison. Wait till y'all see this picture. This is the biggest smoking gun in the world. I got it called up here on my laptop. Can you see?
Yeah,
that's the girlfriend of a billionaire, a 30-year-old billionaire. That to me is, yeah, there we go.
Wait, how old is that girl?
This is what she's an adult or whatever. A 30-year-old billionaire, that's his girlfriend?
Yo, I am.
Did you know? I mean, had you seen this, Royce? Did you? I mean,
No, well,
for someone on my level, it just didn't add up.
No, I think it adds up perfectly. She's a spook too. That first of all, she's not she's Agent Cody Banks over there. I don't even think that she's 21 years old, to be honest. But the thing I think that people have to understand at home and get comfortable with again is the level of involvement by which the security state has the reins of this country and this government. The Ukraine is a great example. We are active. Our military is actively fighting a war on the ground in Ukraine. We are not only supplying Ukrainian soldiers, we are not only supplying the Ukrainians with weapons that we're disproportionately spending when the Russians versus the Russians. So we're losing that war from an economic standpoint, and it's going to be destabilizing to our military in general here to come. But our security state is involved all around the world. And if you go back to a person like Epstein, who was Epstein? Who was Jeffrey Epstein? He was a Wall Street guy and he was a financier. For some reason, the big finance tycoons are intimately involved in many ways, you could say, with a lot of these international security state type scandals. And it's easy to take a young man who's ambitious, who has delusions of grandeur about his own life and views himself as a god and wants all of the material spoils and co-opt him and get him to do what you want and then cut him out at the end. I mean, it's just like Oswald. Oswald became obsessed and you could say with communism. He went to go visit Russia and so on and so forth. And before you know it, you got the perfect person to play the role you need them in an operation that has huge ramifications. By the standards of what we are watching, the 2022 midterm elections were compromised by a single individual and this entire scam. I mean, we're talking about a Senate and a House that came down to a matter of a few seats in a few states and a few cities or counties of 30,000 votes. $100 million doesn't buy you everything, but it buys you a couple 100,000 votes. I mean, that's been statistically proven. So we don't have to go to the machines or the ballot harvesting yet to even talk about how our elections aren't secure. And if we talk about security election in this economic sense, we know that the security state in our country has been involved in subverting elections all around the world. This is what the CIA does. They're on the record for going into other countries and subverting their elections. So why would we believe they don't do it here at home? And no, I'm not suicidal.
Thank you, Royce. Appreciate it. Caroline Ellison, by the way, is age 29, despite looking like a 17-year-old. She's age 29. Thank you, Royce. Have a great weekend. We got to keep it moving. I want to tell you guys about, getting older and how it, it kind of sucks. It's a big adjustment. It's like you're young and healthy, and eventually it gets hard to stay healthy. Next thing you know, you realize you're not so young, but you're not exactly old. Then it gets worse. You might get more of a dad bod or early 2000s Whitlock bod, which some people call like a walrus bob. It's suddenly harder to work out. It's not your fault. As men age, our bodies naturally lose free testosterone. That's because when you were younger, you were at the peak of your production. Wouldn't it be nice to get that winner's edge again and that old swagger back in your step? Nugenix Total T is the #1 selling testosterone booster at GNC. It will help you turn back the clock, re-energize your workouts, get you better results at the gym, and help you look and feel like the man you really want to be. Nugenix Total T contains man-boosting key ingredients like testofen, which has been validated in 5 clinical studies. What is Nugenix Total T? What does it do? It boosts the free testosterone that the aging process robs, so you'll feel stronger and leaner with more energy and drive. Now get a complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T when you text FEARLESS to 231-231. Text now and get a bottle of Nugenix Thermo, their most powerful fat incinerator ever, with the key ingredients to help you get back into shape fast, absolutely free. Text FEARLESS to 231-231. That's FEARLESS to 231-231. You can email me and us, fearless@blazeshow@gmail. You know what, before we go, I want to share with you all an email I got today. Steve Kim's just around the corner. But I got an email boy, let me see. Oh, God, I hope I got to be able to find it. It was a great email. Oh, man, was it from Kay? Was it Kay that? No, it wasn't Kay. Kay sent me a good email. Was it Pat? You know what? When we come back with Steve Kim, I'll share the email with you. Steve Kim, next.
We want freedom. I just want, I wanna be, I just want, I wanna be, I just want, I wanna be, I just want.
Yeah, 모두 다 빨리 박수 쳐 기다리지 말고 서둘러 reason that I'm back is to feed you raps and I see that you are 배불러 so fly.
All right, welcome back. Time for some Steve Kim, and I found the email I was looking for, and it wasn't a great email. It was an annoying email. I knew there was an email I wanted to share with you all that annoyed me. I made a mental note. I wanted to share an email on the show, and Steve Kim just reminded me of it. It's from Sergio. I received it this morning, 3 hours ago. No, it's longer than that because it was this morning. I can't do the math. Anyway, Steve, here's the email. Bring Steve Kim up on camera because whoever you paid for this email, Steve, you didn't pay him enough. Dear Jason, please stop giving Steve Kim a hard time. He's one of the main reasons I watch the show. I'm pleading for you not to get rid of him. He brings a great deal of knowledge to the show, and I appreciate and enjoy him giving you a hard time. In addition, please give him a pay raise since he seems to wear fearless t-shirts all the time and he needs a better wardrobe. Thanks for bringing us great content and Steve Kim. Sergio. Steve, you're on thin ice. I get any more emails like this, and you'll be the new Greg Couch, Uncle Jimmy.
No, Jason, I think I know who it is. It's one of those 38 Sergios that I graduated with at Montebello High School. But, putting all of that aside, I am just here to work hardcore, man. Just hardcore work. That's what I'm ready for. Let's get this started.
We will get it started. We're going to get it started with, I want to tap into your expertise as it relates to pop culture and hip hop. Our man Bryson Gray here dropped a banger, in my opinion, but we'll defer to your expert opinion. He dropped a song about LeBron James last week that I think is off the chains. It's only about 2.5 minutes. Let's play the song, and then we'll get your expert review.
I just want to make y'all think.
I gave everything that I had. I poured my heart, my blood, my sweat, my tears to this game, man.
Before you get angry, just listen.
Tell
LeBron I said shut up and dribble, or do some research at least just a little. Politicians playing you like a fiddle. I got my stripes, so that mean I'm official. Wait, you criticize the country making you rich, but never say that about China. So that means somebody pulling your strings like a puppet, or you just cap you a liar. And it's okay if we disagreeing. Think about all the black kids you misleading. When a black man gets shot, you start tweeting before you even understand the reasons. Talk about books you ain't even read. I just wonder what you really believe. Fake news spreading like a disease, but I know you're doing anything for some cheese. You're supposed to be a king, this is your name, but kings don't go look for someone to blame. Look at your money and fame. Instead of being grateful, you just complain. Having the time of your life, but telling black kids all they gon' feel is pain. I feel like Noah before he even built the ark, trying to tell everyone it's gon' rain, but they don't believe me. I guess being the victim is easy. I mean, I'm black, look at how bad they treat me. That's until their favorite rapper repeat me. I guess that's different, right? You don't care and you still gon' listen, right? Meanwhile, these labels making millions, right? They sign these rappers and they pimp them, right? But they say I'm the one that's tripping, alright. People like LeBron seem to only care about their funds, and that seems to be the case with most. But the Bible says the wicked can run, and maybe that's why I keep getting banned. But that's okay, I don't bite out of none. That's what lessons my Father in heaven, and who he said, which is his only son. Tell LeBron I said shut up and dribble, or do some research at least just a little. Politicians playing you like a fiddle. I got my stripes, so that mean I'm official. Wait, you criticize the country making you rich, but never say that about China. So that means somebody pulling your strings like a puppet, or you just cap you a liar. Wait, how you not gonna stand with Kyrie when you got a ring with him? How you gonna delete the episode with Ye Mups and puppet strings in them? You said the Cowboys ain't allowed free speeches, this is neat different. I guess you never play with Sacramento cause it ain't no king in them, but real, recognize real. I can see that you blind. Did you get the same energy with Dwayne Wade? Okay, never mind. While you listen to music that say the N-word so much like a million times. But you get mad when people say it on Twitter, but when you do it, it's fine. Tell LeBron I said shut up and dribble, or do some research at least just a little. Politicians playing you like a fiddle. I got my stripes, so that mean I'm official. Wait, you criticize the country making you rich, but never say that about China. I guess somebody pulling your shoes like a puppet, or you just cap you a liar.
Steve, the floor is yours. Can we get an expert review?
You know, you call him Bryson Gray, I call him Barson Gray. Oh, he is the conservative Rakim. I mean, that he was flowing like the Nile, you know, and I love the backdrop of Curtis Blow basketball, one of the first hip-hop videos I ever remember watching, back when hip-hop was still kind of in its infancy. The one thing I might have added, it's just a small quibble here, as I play Korean Hype Williams, I would have added the drop of Laura Ingraham, because I think she's the one who said to LeBron, really effectively, shut up and dribble. So I may have put her time for some action. I would have done that. But again, very, very small quibble. Another masterpiece from the Picasso of conservative hip hop.
Yo, thank you so much. And I actually agree, because obviously the name Shut Up and Dribble came from Laura Ingraham. I should have added her clip in the song somewhere. Oh my goodness.
And then,
I can't believe I didn't do that.
You know what? I wonder if you can do it and we can send it to her.
Yeah.
Yo,
Yes.
we should do that.
Yeah, we should put that in there, send it to her. She asked me to come on the show all the time. A lot of times I don't do it all the time, but she may, have you on the show.
One other thing, guys.
That'd be cool.
I like the subtle thing at Dwayne Wade. Why isn't he criticizing him? We'll just leave it at that. That was very subtle. Subtlety works. It's like a sledgehammer sometimes.
I love, he and Kyrie, you got a ring with him. The whole song was that's a bang. And it's funny, man. Rap doesn't hit me that way. That's the way rap used to hit me. Like, dang, they really dropping some truth. This hits me hard. Again, I go back to, when I was in college and KRS-One but even Rakim, even if it wasn't conscious music or whatever, but rap used to hit me in a way in your gut that it doesn't do anymore. And it's like, I'm getting that now from you and Bizzle. Y'all harder than the rappers.
That's the goal. Shout out to Bizzle too, man. That's my homie, but it's really trying to bring real hip hop back to what it's supposed to be. Have meaning in it. The beats can still be hard. The flow can still be good. You know what I'm saying? But you can do that and have some meaning to what you're saying, rather than being about nonsense the entire time. I feel like it's actually better we have meaning to it, because it sits with people's minds more, and I feel like it'll last longer rather than the short span people have in music now.
All right, Steve and Bryson, I would assume you ain't from here. Are you a Tennessee Titans fan at all?
Nah, everybody in the house is becoming one though since we have moved here.
Gotcha. All right, so the Tennessee Titans last night, Steve, knock off Green Bay kind of the way that I expected. It was 20-17 going into the fourth quarter. That's kind of how I thought the game ended up being 27-17. The Titans, after I believe an 0-2 start, have won 6 of 7 games, maybe, or 7 of 8, 6 of 7. I can't remember. And to me, are starting to put together a case to perhaps be the second best team in the AFC. And if they had a real quarterback, they might be a threat to be the best team in the AFC. What do you think about the Tennessee Titans as maybe the second best team in the AFC after the Kansas City Chiefs?
Jason, to get to your point, but I want to point this out. I think this was the tale of two quarterbacks. But to what you directly spoke on, if they get that version of Ryan Tannehill, that's a team I absolutely would not want to play in January, because he made every throw when he had to. And look, this is the dominance of Derrick Henry, though. He is the nucleus. He only had 87 yards, Jason, but it felt like his impact was like 150 yards because of what he set up off of play action and just the fronts that they got. And to give Tannehill credit, every time they needed a third down converted, there are a couple deep shots that they dialed up. He threw the ball on time, and basically outside of one really bad pick when he went for the kill shot, I thought he almost played a flawless game. Again, that version of Tannehill that could take advantage of relatively limited opportunities and value the football, which he did not against the Bengals, I would hate to play them. You know, Jason, when I look at Mike Vrabel, doesn't he look like an MMA fighter? I mean, honestly, he has that raw. That's a guy I would not want to get into the octagon with or in the back alley. And it's interesting because they do ground and pound. And if you look at that game, specifically in the first half, they got on the ground and they just choked out the Packers. I mean, they just choked them out, and it looked like master jiu-jitsu. They had the ball, I think, almost 20 minutes to the Packers 10 in the first half. That game didn't even seem.
And Buffalo, very talented, but Josh Allen prone to the big mistakes. I'm not ready to jump all the way on the Dolphins bandwagon. I like their personnel. I like their wide receivers, obviously, and Tua's doing the best that he can. But, you know, who is, if not Tennessee, who is the second best team in the AFC?
Look, I'm still not giving up on Buffalo because of the raw talent. And we saw this last year with the Bills. They went about a month where they were just incredibly mediocre to bad. And that's what's truly keeping Josh Allen from being not just elite or one of the most talented guys, but a guy that you could really say is on top of the mountain. Most really good quarterbacks don't string together 2-3 bad weeks in a row. And then that's what he's done. He's got to get back on track, make the routine play, and stay out of the bad one. And Jason, to your point about Derrick Henry being MVP, we always talk about this in basketball. Do they make other players better? You look at Derrick Henry and the fact you're going to get a lot of man coverage, you're going to get loaded boxes, and a quarterback doesn't have to do a lot, and you could literally be very effective. Think about this. Ryan Tannehill didn't even have 30 attempts, but he had well over 300 yards. That is passing efficiency that is actually rare. So I really think when you take a look at that particular description of a value to a team and making others better and lifting their game, Derrick Henry right now is doing it as well as any offensive player in the National Football League.
All right, Steve. The other thing that's happening that's interesting is there seems to be a really pronounced fear of Jeff Saturday. The Fritz Pollard Alliance, basically the NAACP of the National Football League, is going to investigate the Colts hiring Jeff Saturday as an interim head coach. And the only reason why this announced, if he had lost and got embarrassed by the Raiders, I don't think there would be an investigation. They'd just be like, oh, he's going to crash and burn. But I think now there's a fear like, well, holy cow, what if this works? We got to do something about this. We have to draw a line in the sand that we're anti-Jeff Saturday and Jim Irsay. There's a fear that Jeff Saturday may be successful, and the Fritz Pollard Alliance is going to, dirty up his name and the Colts' name for potentially hiring. The Colts play the Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles coming off a, embarrassing loss. Eagles now 8-1. Eagles a 7-point favorite. Colts at home. If they beat the Eagles, Jeff Saturday may be in pole position to be retained as the Colts head coach. And, the NAACP and all the diversity, inclusion, and equity guys at the NFL are going to be upset.
Here's the question. Let's say Jeff Saturday puts together a real run, which I still think is unlikely. Let's say he goes 7-1, leads them to an unlikely wild card berth. Doesn't that prove Irsay correct? You actually got the best man for the job. And then if he fails, guess what? They're going to get a new coach. This is, again, a rather ineffective organization. I don't know if they're ineffective or as antiquated as the NAACP, but their role nowadays is to be aggrieved, is to complain, and then the virtue signal, and to put in a suggestion in the suggestion box. So that's annoying, isn't it? And then that's their value. So I don't really understand. Look, Jeff Saturday is not a traditional hire. I get it. Anyone that's actually in the coaching profession that went through the ranks, going all the way back to being a very highly underpaid graduate assistant and working their way up the ladder, I can see why this offends them. I get it from their point. But coaching football at this level or being the head man, really not always about the X's and O's. you better be able to lead men, to connect with them and have them fight and play hard for you. If Jeff Saturday actually succeeds, what is the point in ripping it then? Then maybe it actually opens up avenues for other black coaches who may not have traditional roles or have not taken the traditional path. And maybe you say a guy, hey, that guy was a great player. He's been around the sport. Why not? Again, this is just more complaining in what is the industrial grievance complex.
Steve, I'm wondering if what they're doing, the other side of the argument could be that they're putting the Colts in a position that if Jeff Saturday fails, the Colts then have to hire a black coach. That could be the pressure they're trying to mount on Jim Irsay. And Jim Irsay won a Super Bowl with Tony Dungy, a Hall of Fame black coach.
Right, and his replacement, wasn't it Jim Caldwell?
Jim Caldwell, yes.
All right, and that happened within the last 10 to 12 years. So the track record suggests that Irsay isn't this deep-seated racist. These guys want to win football games. And so do I believe that they are trying to paint the Colts into a bit of a corner, into at least looking at a candidate they otherwise would not have? There is a possibility, but there also comes to this point. These NFL owners have a right to hire whoever they want. Bottom line. So if they hired, let's say, Edgerrin James, okay, all-time great Colt. Let's say he was given the job, and he has never actually expressed any interest in wanting to be a coach. But let's just say out of a lark, he said, you know what, I'll do it. I'll do it for 2 months. It'll be fun. Would these same complaints be coming from the same people? Probably not, and that's where they really lose me. But again, let's see how this plays out. They played the Raiders, Jason. The Raiders are the ultimate slump buster in the National Football League. Now they are playing the Philadelphia Eagles coming off a loss. Let's see where this goes, and let's see what the narratives are in about 72 hours.
I got to say this. I like the Colts plus 7 points. Not saying they're going to win the game, but I like them plus 7 points at home. Big moment for Jeff Saturday. I like them plus 7. Steve, have a great week. I see you got your Miami gear on. Are the Hurricanes, are they bowl eligible yet?
Not yet. By the way, one last thing. First, I have 14 hours of college football I'm watching at my buddy's house, and the first drink I'm pouring out is going to be in honor of Aaron Rodgers. But to the people in Qatar, I guess it's bottled water. I mean, poor people of Qatar. They're not allowed to drink alcohol while watching that godforsaken sport. I mean, I get the sense there's going to be thousands of people that are going to watch this game sober and be like, what the hell? So you know what time it is right now in Qatar? It ain't Miller time. It's really unhappy hour. Those poor folks, come back. No one should be forced to be sober and watch that god-awful, god-forsaken sport. I pray for you folks. But anyway, have a good weekend, guys.
Thank you, Steve.
All right, bro.
Good job. Get your Fearless Army swag, shopblazemedia.com/fearless. We're going to talk to a former NFL great, Larry Johnson. All right, welcome back. We're going to switch up a little bit and talk with, well, it's not really a switch up. We just got done talking sports with Steve Kim. Now we're going to bring back an NFL star from the 2000s, first time on Fearless, Larry Johnson, former All-Pro with the Kansas City Chiefs, had back-to-back 1,700-yard seasons in the mid-2000s. I covered most of Larry's professional career. He ended up, I think, playing in Washington and maybe briefly in Cincinnati later in his career. But I covered the bulk of Larry's NFL career. Larry Johnson, welcome to Fearless. I want to start here with the audience. People in Kansas City will know, but when Larry was in Kansas City, I wouldn't say me and Larry got along. I wouldn't say we were hostile towards each other, but we didn't get along. Larry was in a contract dispute, and Larry was in a different space than the Larry Johnson I've been following probably the past 10 years over social media. So let's start there, Larry, in terms of your mindset and how it's evolved from your time as an NFL star to your mindset now the past decade as a civilian and an observer of the culture.
I say the access to money, the access to the environment was a lot different then than it is now. Like now, spiritually, I evolved because I'm no longer getting 100,000, 200,000 checks every single week. And I'm not going to Vegas. I'm not partying as much as I used to anymore when I had access to do that. So now I dedicate myself in spiritually evolving and understanding this world and understanding my habits and how my habits have, hurt others in the beginning. And I'm evolving that way.
And so, and I don't know, and I'm asking where are you on your spiritual journey? Because it strikes me from afar that you're on a spiritual journey. How would you define, or maybe it defies explanation, but how would you define your spiritual walk?
I feel right now, before I was throwing a pity party to myself, I'm out of that phase. I'm into the phase of closing some generational curses that I've understood that runs in my bloodline. I've conquered that phase. Now my phase is directed towards actually walking and living by the word, and my actions starting to show that. So that's where I'm at right now. I'm at a point of war. That means I'm situated with myself that my past doesn't bother me. People attacking me because of my past does no longer bother me. I have all the facts and all the truth, and I just share it with the world and show them where I'm at. I'm literally preparing for war or at war because of the truths that I found.
It's so funny to hear you say that because I'm 55 now, and so if we went back almost 20 years when you were in Kansas City, I was a young man or younger than I am now. And the things you're saying are exactly what's going on with me in terms of a revelation of a bigger purpose in life and getting myself in order, figuring out that, actually, in order to improve the world, I got to improve Jason Whitlock, and I got to try to live by the word more than by the world and what culture says. And so it's funny that our journeys have us kind of on the same path, even though we came at it from different directions.
And what's a blessing? I always think of this is when you sat me down and had me connect with Jim Brown. I think that for me, that's where it really started. It was small, but I think the connection between you and I started at Jim Brown. I mean, I still remember him, pulling me to the side and asking me, did I know about the Willie Lynch papers? I had no idea. But when I went home that day, I went through it. And I think that's where it started from.
It's funny. And I eventually became friends with Larry's agent at the time. I don't know what you and Alvin Kill's relationship is today, but Larry and I, again, we had a bit of an adversarial relationship, but back in that era, even when the media was at odds with a star athlete, you still interacted and engaged with each other, and there was still an opportunity for people to understand each other. And I remember now, I had Jim Brown come to Kansas City for an event, and you just reminded me that I introduced you to Jim Brown. I had forgotten that, but it just speaks to how things have changed so much. The media where it is today, if there's any tension between the media and a celebrity or an athlete now, there's virtually no engagement. Everybody just runs off into their corners. And it's like we still had to deal with each other, and we both benefited from engaging with each other, because I promise you, as I've followed you just over social media over the last 10 years, I feel like I have benefited from that. I find you to be very wise and interesting. Can't say that I agree with everything, but I'm just impressed by your journey and your intellectual evolution.
Thank you. I mean, like I said before, when I first got my Twitter handle back, you were one of the first few people I started following again, because I do remember we weren't at odds in a certain way, but it was because of my actions, duly noted, my actions on and off the field brought or invited that type of writing from you. So I understood why you wrote. I understood that is your job. I still understood the situations and the environment I was in that caused that environment. So I understood, and that's why it was so easy for me to connect with you, because I still do remember that Jim Brown incident. And then we went on, and social media kind of builds from there. I don't agree with everything you said, but it was still a foundation that we both agreed on certain things.
So, Larry, I want your thoughts today on what you think of what's going on with Kyrie Irving and Kanye West. I'm someone that, particularly as it relates to Kyrie Irving, and to a lesser degree, and still do, I champion Kyrie and Kanye. I think, particularly as it relates to Kyrie Irving, his religious freedoms are being violated. This man has done nothing wrong. And I think the media has sensationalized Kanye West's comments so that they actually don't have to deal with what he's saying. They've sensationalized, oh, he's anti-Semitic. We don't even have to deal with that. I don't think these guys are all right, but I do respect the fact that they're inviting and creating the space for a necessary conversation. I'm wondering what's your take as you watch what's going on with Kyrie Irving and Kanye West.
It's interesting because, yes, what they say or some of the things that they've said have been the truth, but people go past that and don't understand that there's a lot more to this story than meets the eye. You have to have a controlled opposition. You have to have someone that will stand for something, but when it's time for push comes to shove, you have to show them being remorseful. And this is not the first time Kyrie Irving has done this. He came out and said the earth was flat. Then they got him on about that. Then he changed his position and said, oh, the earth wasn't flat. I was into conspiracy theories. Now we move on to this Black Jew Israelite thing. Now he says what he needs to say, which is, I posted the video, this was what's on the video, and then he backtracked and said it was anti-Semitic. They have not yet provided any information within the video that shows what information that was presented that is anti-Semitic. So now, because of the sports arena is such a controlled environment, not like what Kanye West is doing, because everything is, all over the place. But when you have a controlled environment such as sports, you have to jump on harder because there's a lot more players, a lot more black players that needs to see a system of control that you can't say what you want. And these are the penalties of saying what you want. So I think in the arena of sports, they're going to come down harder on Kyrie because he's much more than just one black basketball player. This speaks to black players in baseball, black players in football, black players in soccer, and any other sports that's here. And that's what they have to make the example. They have to make the example louder for Kyrie so everybody else can fall in line.
Larry, one of the things I've argued over the last few years and probably even felt back in the day when you were playing is that there will never be another Muhammad Ali and likely never another Jim Brown because the athletes are so immersed in the corporate environment. They have so many corporate puppet strings on them. There's too much financial pressure. It's too easy to control them. And those athletes from that previous generation, Jim Brown, Muhammad Ali, they didn't have those corporate ties, and that liberated and freed them. Do you see that as well?
Of course. I still watch those old school 70s black exploitation films with Jim Brown being gunned. When Jim Brown, his last year, and Art Modell, he always talks about this story. Art Modell told Jim Brown he better come back. And Jim Brown said, I'm not coming back. And then left and went to Hollywood and had a successful career as an actor. Like other players are able to do that. Muhammad Ali was able to do that. Bill Russell and all those guys were by themselves. You had phenomenal black athletes or black leaders in sports side to side. And now they don't want that. They can't have that because it messes up money. Like you said, the corporate ties, then you have religionists involved. You have other people's religions that you don't know about that's hide behind the scenes. You have those religions involved. So everybody has their hands on these particular players because they're a moneymaker. And you cannot have, dissent entangled with where you have your money or where your money flows.
Larry, back during your playing career, you were closely connected to Jay-Z and Rockaware and all of that. I would like, what was your relationship with Jay-Z and the whole Rockefeller deal, and how do you view that time and Jay-Z now?
I viewed it was a great opportunity for me because at that time, Reebok wasn't messing with me. Nike wasn't messing with me. I was kind of like the black sheep of the NFL, as much as you know, in Kansas City. So it became a deal where I had a clothing store and we were selling Rockaware. And then I just gotten closer just by chance of, meeting Dame Dash first. And he signed me under his athletic label, Team Rock. And then that's how I met Jay-Z. So now after Jay-Z and Dame split, I went with Jay to be with Rockaware. And then I signed a deal for S. Darter cleats when he had his cleat and I wore his cleats. I mean, it was a good business situation because who wasn't a fan of Jay-Z in the late 90s, early 2000s? Everybody pretty much was. But now I see it was strained because I kept being arrested. I can't tell you how many times he emailed me and told me to stay out of the clubs, but I wouldn't listen. So we had to part ways because of it was an image problem. Now that I shut myself down and was gone out of the media for like 5 or 6 years, I came back and started digging and found out who he really is and why he says the thing that he says and who his allegiance is with. And I don't have any beef with him, but because of my strength and spirit and strength with the word, we happen to be budding frenemies or enemies. And that's just the way it is. I have nothing against him, but what he stands for, I see much more than just, raps on lyrics.
Walk me through, you said something interesting that Jay-Z, though, during your playing career, was actually giving you good advice. Mm-hmm. Yes?
Yeah, I still remember the time I think the last incident in Kansas City, before I got released, he told me, emailed me, mad. He cursed me out, really. He cursed me out and told me to stay out the effing clubs. And he said, I can't vouch for you if you're going to keep getting in trouble. And I understood that. And mind you, I still didn't listen because my evolution at that time was very stagnant. So I was really going with the flow. I didn't know where I was going to end up. I didn't know what I was going to do for my future. Football is all I knew. And it took me to lose everything to really build myself back up to find out what things really are. That's why I have no real animosity to Jay-Z, Beyonce, and my time at Rockaware. It was truly a blessing and a learning experience. And I got to see things that I'd never seen before. But now, because I had those experiences, now I'm able to shed a deeper light because I've been around them before. So my words now, when I'm standing in truth, are ringing louder than they would at my time for Rockaware because I stand for something completely different now.
And so, as best you can or as comfortable, what do you think Jay-Z stands for now?
Well, it's obviously they've been controlled by Satanism. I mean, I'm not really scared to say that. We all know Luciferians, Freemasons, and all occult knowledge that was drugged up from Egypt have now surfaced itself in American society. And if you actually dig through the raps, like as I have, before it was all about partying, popping bottles. But when you listen to it again with a new ear, obviously they're not serving the same most high God that I am. And that's what makes us enemies, that I stand for a completely different doctrine, a completely different nation, and a completely different truth than he does. I don't have any materialism attached to my spirit or soul anymore. I don't have fornication attached to my spirit anymore. I mean, I just got engaged July. So my life is completely different from how I was with women in the early 2000s. And I think that is the difference in itself of being involved with Rockaware has made me see something completely different, and knowing who his allegiance is with is not the Most High God. And we all know, Satan rules this realm.
Do you, and again, I don't want to get you off into speculation world. You've had dealings with Jay-Z, you've studied that. But do you think that's the case, and you can pass on this question if you don't want to speak on it, but do you think that's the case with all of the commercial hip-hop music industry?
I mean, if you know who owns and runs the hip hop industry and entertainment industry, it all funnels itself down. It's like a pyramid scheme. Whatever materialism, murdering and debauchery amongst specifically Black Americans, you see that coming from somewhere. If you just follow the money and who runs these companies, you know exactly who's pulling the strings and making sure it's only this particular type of brand of music and entertainment that's for destroying the lives of Black Americans. Unbeknownst to them, because it sounds good over a beat, it's being destroyed. It's a frequency or a vibration that's being let out by those type of puppets as Jay-Z, Kanye, and all them, that they have to stand for it in their good standing of being quote unquote billionaires.
You put Kanye in the same lane as Jay-Z.
You got to. If I can see a picture of Jay-Z at a Prince Hall Freemason meeting, since Kanye looks at Jay-Z as his bigger brother, they have to be right next to each other. They wouldn't share the same space or the same stage if Jay-Z was a Freemason and Kanye was, quote unquote, a Christian. It would never happen. It's a reason why somebody owns those platforms that they dance and sing on. And those platforms are owned by a specific religion or a specific doctrine that controls these two.
So the other reason I wanted to have you on is because I see some of your tweets, and I think, and I could be wrong, but I think you have some insight into the Hebrew Israelite movement or what, and I don't know. Are you involved with that? I can't figure it out from afar. That's why I'm asking you. What is your understanding of the Black Hebrew Israelite movement? What do you think of it? Where are you at in your spiritual journey as it relates to that?
Well, I've told people I am an Israelite. I mean, to me, it's not really a movement. If I can find you two scriptures that really sums up literally what everybody is talking about. And this is something that you have never heard or you will never hear from Kanye West, Jay-Z, or Kyrie Irving. You won't hear about Deuteronomy 28:68. Everybody knows the Israelites walked from Egypt, but in that specific passage, it talks about how we would go back into slavery in ships. There was no ships to go into Egypt. So where is the second Egypt? It's America. Look at all the foundations of America. We got pyramids, we got Luxor, we got the obelisk in DC, we got Freemasonry, which is the founding fathers that they took that from Egypt. That's one verse. Then you got Genesis 15:13. Now it says to Abraham that we would serve in another nation that is not ours 400 years. Now, who signed the 400 African-American historical act? Donald Trump. He did this, 2 or 3 years before in his presidency. So to me, it's not really a movement or a grassroots movement. It's just the truth. It is what it is. We have to find out the truth based on who particular race and nation is it talking about in these specific verses.
Bryson, help me out here. He quoted some scripture here that this is your area of expertise. What do you think of that?
Well, he was referring to Deuteronomy. Obviously, everybody knows Deuteronomy is after Exodus, obviously, when the Israelites were taken out of Egypt. And he gets to Deuteronomy. He is right that it does say they will be slaves to other nations in Deuteronomy 28:29. But you have to also understand why. The context is they turned away from God's ways in Deuteronomy 28:29. And God said, because you turned away from my ways, I will give you over to evil rulers. You will become slaves. You'll be given over to confusion and other things of that nature. And then in Deuteronomy 29, it talks about how once we turn back to God's ways, we will come back. My only issue with necessarily the Black Hebrew Israelite movement is when you look up like where Abraham was born, right? It's modern day Iraq. And from every historian I can think of, I could be missing one, they said it was all shades of people there. So to me personally, it wouldn't be logical to say all Israelites were black, but that's just my opinion though.
Larry, you go ahead.
Nah, I've seen the ancient maps. There are maps that have been made that change the biblical locations of where Abraham really is. Abraham was born closer to east of Africa. And if you actually go through the old maps before they change the historical locations, the river of Euphrates, if you go to the old Negro land African map, the river of Euphrates is all the way in West Africa. So that can't be if you're talking about modern day Iraq or the Middle East, if there's two different types of location of where Euphrates rivers are. If you look at the concentric map, I guess De Verga, I think his name, 1411, he put the concentric rings of all 5 rivers mentioned in scripture of Garden Eden in the south tip point of Africa. Now, this is information that not everyone has seen. Remember, in order to change history, as mentioned in Psalms, like they will be confederate against us, they changed biblical locations in the maps in Africa and moved into the Middle East so that the area that you know now as Israel, Jerusalem, it was known as Idumea. And that fort that you see that everybody calling it's the city, is actually a fort built by Herod the Edomite. So it can't be that biblical city if it once was called Fort Antonia. And that's how my information that I'm finding is different from what the mainstream locations are, because you got to really dig through it to find out things were changed.
Larry, let me ask you this, and because some of this is new information to me, slightly over my head. It's going to take some time for me to process everything that's saying, but part of where I come down on it, or my instincts are, explain to me, and I'm not asking this defensively or aggressively, I just wanted from an explanation. Why is it important in 2022 for Larry Johnson, Jason Whitlock, or Bryson Gray to know or to believe or to think that we're the true Israelites? Why is it important? And I'm not trying to sound stupid. I want to know.
Because obviously, if you look around, this country, this system is imploding on itself. And if you understand the prophecy of Daniel, he was told to seal the books up until the end. Now, look at all the new books that have came out of the scripture that wasn't in the canonized Roman Catholic version of the Holy Bible or the King James Bible. We have been now exposed to new books and new understanding. And it's important for all of us, whether if you believe in the Hebrew Israelites or not, it's still important for everyone, because it wasn't just Israelites that took the covenant of the Torah on the Mount Sinai. They with other nations as well. It's important for all of us to open our eyes, because this system is eventually going to destroy itself. And before that happens, we have all been told in the book of Revelation to come out of her, my people. We are right now coming out of this system. I know some of you have to do this for a job and all, but spiritually you can come out of this system. So when the hammer drops down, it'll feel like a bee sting rather than feel like what you read in the book of Revelation of how these curses and plagues are going to attach itself to only those who didn't want to come out of the system and did not want to live by the word. So it's important, regardless of what walk of life you're in, that we are the ones that are telling you, look what happened to us in Deuteronomy. This is what the real reason why the Israelites can understand this. Look what happened to us in slavery for being disobedient. Now, you think that other shoe is not going to drop on those who have other races and nations? It's going to drop soon. And that's why we're trying to waken others up. We're not trying to practice black supremacy or Israelite supremacy. We care enough about everybody else who is either a Gentile or from other nations. We care enough to have you find yourself and find your soul so you can save it, because it's shown through this government. It's not going to save you.
Right. Your reaction to that?
Well, we have some overlapping values, obviously, right? I do believe I am an Israelite. I just don't believe only black people are Israelites. I do believe we're supposed to keep the Torah, because if you go read, and I'm sure he knows this verse too, if you go read Deuteronomy 29, the end of it, it said that we're supposed to keep the Torah. Every word is in the Torah forever. It's an everlasting situation. And I'm sure me and him have those overlapping values. So, I mean, in some cases, I'm not the type of person that hate the Black Hebrew Israelites, because I do believe a lot of them read scriptures more than modern day Christians. but some sects of Black Hebrew Israelites, it's not all of them, but some sects, they believe Esau was white. And if you read Malachi chapter 1, verses 2 and 3, God hated Esau. And for modern Christians, that may surprise people. No, God doesn't hate anybody. No, Psalm 5:5, God hates workers of iniquity. In Malachi chapter 1, verses 2 and 3, God hated Esau, clear cut. There's no other way to view it. My issue comes is when they paint this thing that, first, they're telling you that it's 100% fact Esau was white because the Bible says he came out hairy and ruddy, and I don't think that's enough evidence to claim somebody is white. And I don't know if he's in that sect or not. And then, then they try to paint this picture like white people would be our slaves and things of that nature. And my issue with it is Spaniards had us as slaves. We were slaves all over the world. Matter of fact, still today there are African slave trades, even though a lot of them are underground. So I'm not completely sold on the entire narrative of Black Hebrew Israelite.
Larry, I'm going to give you the final word, but man, I appreciate you coming on. This has been a fascinating conversation. I want to have you back, talk about other things, but I'm going to give you the final word, and maybe there's something I haven't asked you that you wanted to share, but please share.
I just wanted to expose what he said because I don't want to be grouped into these camps. I'm not getting my Bible and standing on the corners talking bad about white folk and talking about how white folk are going to be slaves. It doesn't say any of that. In Isaiah, it talks of how the stranger or the Gentile will cleave unto us, and we're going to be set in our own land. And also it says that Esau mingled his seed with everybody. Job was black, a black complexion. Esau had women from Canaanites. He had women everywhere. He also had a grandchild named King Sepho who ruled in Kittim. Now, Kittim is, in the scripture is Rome or Idumea or Edom. So, and also Esau had sexual relations with the Horite, which is also mentioned. And now the Horite is completely separate from Noah's line, Japheth, Ham, and Shem. They're completely different. They're called the troglodyte or the cave dweller. Now that's where some of what we think is into Rome or into Greece came from the nation of the Horite. And I think when you step back and understand scripture and how Esau called his sons Duke. Now all you got to do is follow that title Duke, and it'll lead you right into the royal family, right into Britain and around those European monarchs. And that's what we're trying to do. I don't never want to be associated with those camps because they really do preach too much hate and not enough love, and they do not go to war with their enemies. They go to war enough to be seen by their enemies. And I think this is where I'm at in my place, is really rocking this thing alone by myself. And I think that's where the strength comes. Everybody needs to learn on their own. Don't group up. Don't do any of that. If anybody who's going to gather us together and open our eyes, it's the Most High. He will do it. Not man will do it. He will do it.
I love it. I agree 100%.
Larry, thank you so much. Great job.
Thank you.
Appreciate you making the time. We're going to circle back. Maybe talk a little football. Do you still watch football, Larry?
A little bit of it. If I have to see that shotgun handoff reel one more time, I'm going to lose it.
We may bring you on to talk some football, but thank you so much, Larry. God bless.
Thank you.
That's tomorrow. That means we'll see you. Not tomorrow. We'll see you next week, Thanksgiving week. I think we'll have Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday shows next week. But anyway, Bryson, thank you. Awesome job, as always.
Thank you.
You guys shut up and dribble and enjoy your weekend.
Looking like it's my time, feeling all kinds of free. These words are our religion, all regrets and our decisions. We all wanna go to heaven with freedom. It's my obligation, no hate, discrimination, raising up your hands for freedom. Raise up your